Hi, welcome to episode 205 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Twitter and Instagram. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, and that's where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, and we have a Ravelry group called The Corner of Knit and Tea. Hi, how are you? It is Sunday, December 2nd, and it feels like forever since I have talked to you. It has been 3 full weeks, and I am so sorry. I so intended to record in between, and I will talk a little bit about my trip and why I didn't record, but when it came down to it, I just didn't have time. And so I have tons and tons to show you and talk about with you today. So, it is December. I can't believe it. We are in the last month of the year. The holidays are coming at a breakneck pace. I am so not ready. I did not have time to get my tree up last weekend, and I don't know that it's going to make it up this weekend either. And so I want to get that going, and I have been watching everyone open their advent calendars and do Vlogmas, and I confess I'm a bit jealous. I did not order an advent calendar this year, and I'm kind of sad that I didn't, because I'm seeing everyone open their Yarny advent calendars, and it's so much fun, and I feel a little left out. And I also, I guess I didn't really think about doing Vlogmas for this year, but now I'm kind of thinking about maybe doing it for next year, and I know that's forever away. But we'll see. So I'm just bursting with all kinds of things to tell you and talk to you about. So I hope that if you are American and you celebrated, you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope that you have had a wonderful few weeks. If this is your first time, welcome to the podcast. Usually I am pretty regular about putting out episodes, and I have not been in the last couple weeks. So this is going to be probably a long catch-up episode. If you are coming back, thanks for hanging out and waiting for me to come back. Yeah. So the last time I talked to you, it was the week before we left for the holidays. We left on Friday, November 16th, and we drove to Illinois first for my husband's. They did a kind of family Thanksgiving reunion on Saturday the 17th. So we went and did that, and that was great. We got to see a lot of his family and eat yummy Thanksgiving foods. And then we stayed over the night there in Illinois, Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday we started the drive to California. We always spend Thanksgiving in California with my family, and his family Thanksgiving was kind of an add-on this year. We haven't done that before. So then, starting Sunday, we drove out to California. Sunday, we drove to Elk City, which is in western Oklahoma. We stayed there for the night, and then Monday, we drove out to Winslow, Arizona. And if you watched my podcast last year, you may remember that I talked about this crazy hotel in Winslow, Arizona called La Posada. It is one of the Fred Harvey hotels. It used to be a fancy dining room and hotel. It was a place for people to get away on the Amtrak, because the Amtrak and Route 66 run through Winslow, Arizona, and then all the way out to Los Angeles, and the stars used to go out to Arizona for a little respite. So we stayed there. They have an amazing dining room, which we love. I will say, our stay this time wasn't as idyllic as our last stay. The last time we were there was almost no one there. The deal is that it is a renovated old train station. So the big common areas, like big parts of the train station, they've repurposed into game rooms and rooms with fireplaces and bookcases and lots of comfy places to sit. And last year I grabbed a book and sat in front of the fire for about an hour, and it was absolutely amazing. And then they have this beautiful, beautiful dining room that serves fancy dinners. And the food is just wonderful. And so we did make a reservation to go to the dining room again this year. I will say there were significantly more people there this year. There were a lot of kids running around, and so we got in kind of late on Monday, and I made a reservation for a 7:45 p.m. dinner, which is kind of late for us. And there were a couple tables around us that had kids, and the restaurant serves a lot of interesting cuisine, like deer and elk and boar, and so there was nothing for the kids to eat, and it was past their bedtime, so they were kind of loud and a little bit whiny, and it wasn't like our best experience in there. The other thing is that the hotel now allows pets, which is wonderful for those of you who have pets and not as great for my husband who is super allergic. So we went in and we hung out in the lobby area for a little while right before our dinner reservation, and we went to go sit down at our table, and my husband turned to me and his eyes were like streaming and itchy and red. And his throat was starting to get all crazy, and luckily we had some Benadryl, but it wasn't quite the same idyllic experience. However, if you're going through Winslow, Arizona, you should totally stop and at least check it out, even if you just go in for like a tour and stuff. Like I said, it's an old train depot turned into a hotel, and then it's also an art gallery. So I still would recommend checking it out. I don't know exactly what we'll do. It wasn't the best. Wasn't the same, especially since last time was so wonderful. Anyway, that brought me to Monday, so then Tuesday we finished the drive out to Los Angeles, and we actually got to see the kids in the evening, my niece and nephew, and have dinner with my parents that night, so that was great. Wednesday and Thursday were lots of playing and cooking and family time. We got to see my aunt and uncle and cousin and play with the kids, and my niece is absolutely in love with Wes because she uses him like a jungle gym. She rode around on his shoulders all weekend and climbed all over him, and my nephew is starting to be so much fun. Last year at this time he had a lot of separation anxiety from my sister, so every time she went out, and they tend to go out a lot and make use of free babysitting, so every time he'd just be miserable, he'd cry, and he'd be upset the whole time she was gone. Well, this year he's got words, he's starting to talk, and he is just super fun, and he loves to run around, and he loves to take you and show you places, and so it was such a fun time with him. And then Friday, we hung out with them mostly during the day. We took them to the park, had dinner with my parents, and then Wes and I actually headed out Friday night. We got as far as Barstow, where we spent the night, and then we spent 2 days driving home, Saturday and Sunday. They were long days, and Sunday was complicated by the fact that there was a blizzard in Kansas. So thank you to those of you who reached out to see if we were okay. There was a blizzard in Kansas. It was running mostly kind of north and northeastern Kansas. We came up through the very southwest point of Kansas, up through New Mexico. So we actually did not have a lot of trouble driving, and we stayed fairly far south in Kansas. We didn't get back up onto 70 because we knew 70 was having trouble and closed. So we stayed fairly far south, and we made it within about an hour or two of our house before we had to quit, which was kind of a bummer because it was like 6:30 at night, so we totally could have made it time-wise, and I had been looking forward to being home that night. But by the time we basically got to a point where we could go no further because they closed all the highways. And that was about at the point where we ran into snow. Like I said, basically it was moving northeast across the state, which is going to be backwards for you. So let's say moving northeast across the state, and we were coming on the southern route. So we were like at the bottom edge of it. Most of our roads were clear. Occasionally there was a dusting in the fields on the side of the road, but like we didn't risk it going through the snow. And basically what we did is, so the storm was moving over here, and we live in like northeastern-ish Kansas. And so we went all the way over south, basically to the state line between Kansas and Missouri, and so then we just had to do the northern portion the next morning, and that still took us a while. The city was basically closed down on Monday, and so to talk to you about podcasting, we were just super, super busy the entire time we were in LA, so I didn't have a lot of time to record. Roxy doesn't take naps anymore, so there isn't really, like, I used to record when she would go down and take a nap, but since they don't take naps anymore, there was no time off from the kids. So, and we were babysitting most of the time, so, yeah, so I didn't have a lot of time, and then I intended to be home Sunday night, and then go to work on Monday and record on Monday, but then what happened was Monday was kind of a disaster, because we didn't even get home till about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I worked, and then it was too dark and gross to record, because it was still, like, in the 20s, and icy, and then it was like, well, I could record on Tuesday, but then I'm just going to record again on Sunday, and I'll show you almost everything I've worked on. So I just opted to wait till today. So the city was basically closed on Monday. It reopened on Tuesday, so I went out for supplies because we had no food, and spent the rest of the week working and kind of catching up, and that brings us to today. So that's kind of what's been going on in my world, and it's already 10 minutes in and I'm still chatting, so let's go ahead and, well, okay, let's talk about the knit-alongs. The sweater knit-along is over. It finished on the 30th. Thanks to those of you who participated. You have the rest of the weekend, which is today, to get your pictures up, and I'm going to announce prize winners tomorrow on Monday. And so that will be done and dusted, and it is time to turn our attention to the next craft-alongs. I currently have the gift-along going. Any gifts that you are knitting, crocheting, weaving, spinning, sewing for anyone in your life, you are welcome to enter them. The only rule is that whatever you're working on must be for someone else, so it cannot be for you. It is gifts. It doesn't have to be holiday gifts. It can be something you're knitting for your significant other, or crafting for your neighbor, or whatever. So you can add them in there. I have not announced the prizes for that. I will do that in the next week or two, but I always give away a couple prizes and some patterns. So that is the gift along. And then last night while I was lying in bed, I started thinking about January. Usually January I do kind of a selfish craft along, which is do something for yourself. But I wondered if I should add a twist to it this year, and I was thinking about all these things that I've always wanted to knit and always wanted to do, or techniques I've wanted to try, and so I wondered if we should make January I've always wanted to, and then do something that you've always wanted to do. It doesn't have to be a new technique. It could be a pattern that you've always wanted to craft. It could be something you've always wanted to sew, a yarn you've always wanted to use, just I've always wanted to. So I'm thinking about maybe changing the selfish knit along in January to I've always wanted to, and it can be something for you or for anyone, but it's something you've always wanted to do so you enjoy yourself in January. So let me know what you think about that. So let's move to the stuff. Today I am drinking from Tea Embassy, their Capital Blend. I pulled it out this past week and was enjoying it quite a bit. It is a blend of Assam, Kenyan, and Ceylon black teas. So it's a strong black tea. I'm drinking it in a lovely mug from a friend that she sent me, and it is beautiful. Knitting mug, and I am enjoying my strong black tea. So let's talk about the knits. The biggest thing that I worked on while I was gone, and I finished it, is my Nanny Swaymo. So this is the Waits cardigan by Bristol Ivy, and it is a top-down sweater that has some interesting shaping, but it's fairly simple. It's a garter stitch. It's mostly garter stitch. It has some stockinette. And I knit it out of, I don't know if I have the card, Lammy Toes in her Sweet Pea Sport, which is an 80/20 merino nylon in the colorway Sweet Tooth. And when you last saw it, I had finished the body, but now it has sleeves. So long sleeves with garter cuffs. And remember, this is the one that has that interesting back, so it's like a stockinette and garter, and it kind of comes to a point. It doesn't quite come to a point in my size, but so you can see it's got some really interesting fun texture. The camera is kind of blowing it out. I washed it and blocked it, and it grew considerably because it is superwash merino, and so I might actually wash it again and put it back in the dryer to snug it up just a little bit, but I do love it. I actually, I like the length the body blocked to. The real problem is that the sleeves block out really long, and even if I cuff them, they're still pretty long. So, and it's meant to actually be more of a cropped cardigan, and when I blocked it, it blocked quite a bit longer. I think just because it's superwash and it stretched out and the water was heavy, and I didn't spin all the water out because I washed it in the sink. And so I think I'm probably going to, like I said, get it wet again and then throw it in the dryer just to shrink it up. But I am super, super pleased with it. The only reason I'm not wearing it today is because I don't know if you remember my knitting this. This is my Wolf River. I knit it in a kit from Craftsy. It was knit in their bulky yarn, and sorry about kicking the camera. It got super cold this week, and I went looking for sweaters to wear, and I realized that I had finished this one and never worn it, and I've been wearing it nonstop this week because it is a pullover with drop shoulder sleeves. It's got some nice lace detailing on the front. It is in my projects. Like I said, it's called Wolf River, and it is super comfy and cozy, and I've been wearing it all week. So that's the only reason I'm not wearing this one, because I want to wear this one too, but I guess this one will be this coming week. So yeah, I think I'm going to wet it again and stick it in the dryer tonight and get it back to just a little bit snugger than it is. And I am super pleased, and I finished it well within the time limit. I finished the sleeve, I think, on Thanksgiving, so before we left California. Like I said, I'm super pleased. I ended up just having to break into that 5th skein, so I'm super glad I ordered it. I didn't use very much of it at all, probably only 10 or 15 grams, but I would have had to make the sleeves 3/4 length if I had not, so I'm really glad that I got that skein. And Amanda, thank you for sending that to me. And like I said, I only used it a little bit on the sleeves, but it blends perfectly. I can't tell the difference. I really can't. So yay. So that's another sweater done, and I've actually been great on sweater knitting this year because I just finished my brown sheep and I finished this one, and I have another one I want to put on the needles, but I have a few other things I need to do first, so we'll just put this aside for now. So I did work on some things in California that you can't see. I worked on a couple pairs of socks for Miles, and I already gave those to him. And I have this funny project that I worked on. You didn't get to see it at all, although there are pictures on my project page. About 6 months ago, I went to work on a Wednesday, which is my knit night day, and I forgot my knitting. I don't know what I was thinking, but I forgot my knitting. And a friend of mine who lives pretty close to Knit Night said, do you want me to run by my house and grab some sock yarn and needles, and then you'll have something to work on? Because when I was working up at my previous job, I was about an hour from home, so there was no way I could come home and get knitting and go all the way back. It would have been a 2-hour round trip and totally not worth it. Anyway, so she brought me some sock yarn and some sock needles, and I started a pair of socks, and I told her that they would be for her because it was her stash. And so I took those with me on this trip and I finished them, but sadly I have already given them to her. So you can see a picture on my project page. It was Patons Kroy FX in the cameo colors. It was like browns and blues and stuff. And she has the exact same size feet as I do, so it was super easy to knit that and finish it. So I finished those. The next thing I did was I started my Rhinebeck sweater weather socks. I think I showed you this yarn. This is beautiful yarn from Nomadic Knits. It's a beautiful stripy ball, and it is called, it's her Rhinebeck sweater weather colorway, and it has got red and orange and a gold and blue and brown and kind of a plummy purple. And I've been wanting to knit this forever. I got it on the Brit sock base, which is 400 yards of superwash BFL and nylon, and that is Nomadic Yarns. And I started and got through the leg. I decided I think that I'm going to do these with an afterthought heel, although I joke that it's a forethought afterthought heel because I put in some waist yarn. So I just put in my waist yarn, and now I need to knit the foot, and then I'll go back and add in an afterthought heel, probably from the other end of the self-striping ball. We'll see what happens with that. So my plan is hopefully to finish this sock this week, but I'm pleased with it. It is kind of a muted rainbow, and I absolutely love it. And if there are leftovers, my mini-me will get socks to match, or maybe my nephew. I don't know. We'll see how much I have left. If I don't have enough left to do my niece's socks, then I will do ones for Miles. So that is the sock that I worked on. And then tragedy struck. It's not really a tragedy, but so I had told you, and I'll show you this one anyway, even though there's not much to show. I had told you that I was going to knit up my handspun. This is that handspun that I made. It is Berries on a Bush. It is Falkland. It was a double skein, and I wanted to knit, and I don't know if I printed out the picture. Not really. You can sort of see it here. It's the Canyonlands shawl. I can't see what I'm showing you. There we go. It's kind of a boomerang shaped. It looks beautiful in handspun. You can do it with kind of any amount of yarn you have. So I printed out the pattern and I wound up the yarn. This was the night before we left. And I started it and I got just like the first little bit done. So not even very much. And I zipped up the bag and put it on the floor next to where my suitcase and all the things were, and that's where it stayed. So I got to California, and I went to pull out this shawl that I really, really, really wanted to work on, and it wasn't there. And I knew I wasn't going to have enough yarn to get me home, because I was short a project. And so I probably would have finished my Rhinebeck sweater weather socks, but I still would not have had enough to get me home. So what is a girl to do but go shopping? I found a yarn store. It was actually just a few blocks from our hotel, and it was it's called L'Atelier, and it's in Redondo Beach, California, and it is a very pretty store. It's a little different in that they have like attire as well, and not even finished knit goods attire. Like there were racks of clothing and racks of yarn and projects and buttons and all kinds of different things. So it was a little different than any yarn store that I had been to. And I walked through, and what I had done, okay, I realized actually, I think on the last day on our way out to California, that I didn't have what I needed. And Wes accused me of planning that on purpose so we could go to a yarn store. So Wednesday morning, I wanted to go to the yarn store before we did anything else because I was afraid they'd be closed for Thursday and I wouldn't have time on Friday, and it was right near our hotel, so we stopped in first thing in the morning when they opened. And Tuesday night in the hotel room, I went through my project queue. It was actually funny. I was actually pretty cranky about having to go buy more yarn, which is really funny. But I really wanted to knit the projects that I had pulled out to knit, and I am concentrating on trying to use yarn from my stash, and I have a million projects that I want to knit. I have like 3 or 4 hand spun things that I want to knit. I have some project kits that I need to knit for review. I really didn't actually want to cast on something that wasn't in my current list of projects because I have so much to do. But, so it was kind of funny because I was cranky, but I went through my queue and I found something, that I have wanted to knit for a while. I guess it could have been my January, you know, I've always wanted to, but, I picked something that had been in my queue for a while that required 2 skeins of fingering yarn. I could have gotten another skein of sock yarn, but I have my sock drawer overflows right now. And I was working on the stripy socks, so I was like, no, I'm just going to get something so that I can knit. I picked a cowl pattern that calls for 2 skeins of fingering weight. So I walked through the store, you know, with my plan in mind, and waited for something to grab me. And the thing that grabbed me was Ba from Ba La Jolla. I guess Ba is the company and La Jolla is the base, and it's 100% superwash merino, 400 yards, and the colorway was called July 18, and it is kind of crazy, and I think the monitor's blowing this out because I can't see it, but there you go, La Jolla. The color was kind of crazy, and it just called to me from across the room, and sometimes you can't help it, and this is the color. It is, it's coming across more pink on the monitor. Not that it is not hot pink, but it is hot pink and orange and kind of coral, and it reminds me of flamingos. So, it's not quite coming across. It's, like I said, it's pink and peach and coral, and then it's got, splotches of, looks like, I think, brown, and red, but the brown kind of comes across as black, but I'm pretty sure it's brown. And what I knit is the Volga cowl. It's a pattern by, the woman goes by Sweater Freak. I'm not just calling her names. And so what it is it's, a cowl, a big, like, eternity loop cowl. And the deal is that you start, at a center point with a smaller number of stitches, and then you kind of work each side out, to a wider number of stitches, and it is worked on the bias, and then you kind of, the way it starts, I don't want to give too much away because it is a paid pattern, but it starts as like a triangle here, and then you work each side separately, and then you join kind of in a triangle here at the other end. So this has not been blocked. It is basically, it's a super simple knit. It's a lot of stockinette and then some kind of a simple mesh. And it is meant to be kind of an eternity loop like such. So that you've got all this great color and volume and then like a bit of texture in there. I lost my textural bits. Where are my textural bits? I guess I folded them and they're mostly behind me. Here's one. So it's got like meshi in there too. So it was a super fun knit, and I knit this in 8 days. Now, 3 of those days I was in the car and we were in a snowstorm and there was all kinds of stuff going on, but I just ripped right through this because this is almost 800 yards of fingering weight, and I finished it this week. So I am actually super thrilled with this project, and I'm gonna love wearing it because it's bright and colorful, and I think I'm channeling my inner flamingo. I don't know, I've been taken with flamingos this year. Don't ask me why, because I really couldn't tell you. But we watched that special, one of those nature specials, the BBC nature specials with David Attenborough, and they talked about the little flamingo mating dance. I don't know if you've seen that. If you have not, Google that, the flamingo dance. I think I Google flamingo dance David Attenborough. It's like a 2-minute clip, and it is super, super funny. They do this thing where they like... I don't even know how to describe it. It looks like they're doing ballet kind of, and their heads are just going from side to side, and it's this whole mating dance. And I think I've decided that my animal is a flamingo. I don't know why, but yeah. Anyway, so this color appealed to me, and the knit appealed to me, and it's something out of my queue. And I used up all, but I think about 20 grams, so I guess it's not 800, it's like 700 and some odd. But I've got 20 grams left, which is great because it can go in a scrap blanket or something. But that is the Volga. I highly recommend it if you have 2 skeins, and you don't have to go nearly as bright as I did, but that is a finished knit. So, like I said, lots and lots of knits this time. One more thing, and then I will be done with the knits. Well, almost. I never know when to stop. I have been keeping this under wraps because I haven't been allowed to talk about it, but this week, Knitter's Pride, they make a whole bunch of the needles that I use. They make the marbles. I also have been using their new ginger set. It's an interchangeable set, wooden needles, absolutely gorgeous. Knitter's Pride released a free washcloth pattern. They like to release a free pattern around the holidays, and I got to design it this year. So it is a free pattern. It is available on the Knitter's Pride blog. There is an entry on Ravelry for it, but it links back to the blog. There's no PDF download. The pattern is on the blog, and it is called Silver Sands, and it is a nice, pretty cabled washcloth. I knit mine using Appalachian Baby organic cotton. That was what they kind of asked me to do. And it is a very simple, it's called the Shifting Sands cable pattern, and the colorway in the cotton is silver, which is why I called it Silver Sands, but it is just a really nice washcloth. I also think it would make an amazing baby blanket. I don't know if I'd do it all in cotton, but maybe I'll upsize it and do a blanket out of it. But anyway, it is the Silver Sands washcloth, and it is available for free on the Knitter's Pride blog, and it is also on Ravelry. So if you're interested in knitting washcloths for the season, I didn't bring it with me, but when I photographed it with some amazing handmade soap. One of my friends has started making soap, and a few washcloths and some handmade soap makes a lovely gift, and a lovely last minute gift if you are still trying to gift for friends or loved ones or stocking stuffers or whatnot. So again, Silver Sands washcloth, free on the Knitter's Pride blog. Okay, lastly, I'm going to talk about what's going to be on my needles this week. I want to tackle this handspun shawl this week, so I decided I wanted to finish Volga before I went back to the handspun shawl. So the handspun shawl is going to get some love this week. Hopefully I'm going to put a foot and a heel on this sock. And the final thing that I'm going to do is I am doing a review sample knit for Appalachian Baby Designs. They produce organic cotton yarn. It is lovely. I actually knit a dress for Roxy a while ago, but they had a bunch of kits, and I have a friend who's having a baby, so I decided the baby sweater kit would be perfect. And it is called the Tally-Ho sweater, and it is this absolutely adorable sweater, just kind of plain with some stripes, dark indigo and the light pink. And I am trying to decide. I might actually make the panel opposite the sleeve, the striped sleeve. I might make the panel opposite the striped sleeve, the indigo. I haven't decided yet. I have to play with the construction and see what happens. They have these cute little kits that they sent out. I did open mine so I could take some photos, but it comes with the little kit with the pattern in it. And then it comes with everything you need. I've got my pink, my blush pink, and my indigo. And again, these are organic, 100% organic cotton. They are sport weight, and then they have 194 yards, 177 meters. And then the cute little pattern in this little booklet, it is for a 12-month size, so it's not for right now. And then it's just got, you know, like the little pattern. So it is super cute. The kits are very reasonably priced, so I am looking forward to knitting this up. I am definitely starting this week. I don't know if I'll be able to finish it this week, although I kind of hope I will, because I have a million things I want to knit. So that's what's going to be on my needles this week. So sip of tea, and then we'll move on to spinning, and then I'll be done. I know this is going on forever. So, spinning. Actually, I have lots of spinning to show you. I did not take my wheel with me to California. With my e-spinner, I certainly could have, but I decided not to. I wanted to knit, and I got tons knit, so I'm very excited about that. So before I left, I was finishing up a spin, and I did finish it, and it poofed up. It is beautiful. I believe it is Falkland, and it is, it was a spin, Hello Yarn fiber. It was called Passing Clouds. And it's purples and golds, and it is really beautiful. It's like violet, and there's some lavender, and then there's a little bit of more of a mauve, and then it's gold, and you can kind of see it's got some indigo. Anyway, it reads very gold, golder than I thought that it would, particularly when I was taking the pictures. But I got, this is super, super squishy soft, next to skin soft, and I probably got 400 yards, and it fluffed up, so it's probably between a fingering and a sport weight, but it would make a lovely shawl or a cowl or just something lovely to wear close to your skin, and this one will be going up in the shop today. When I got home, I decided I wanted to spin something else, and I put a photo up on my Instagram feed, but you will never see it as fiber because I finished it last night. This has not been washed. It will probably also be over 400 yards, and this is a Southern Cross fiber. It was a 50% South African superfine merino and a 50% silk, so it is absolutely luscious. It is so soft. Like, the South African superfine base is probably the softest base I have ever felt anywhere. David is the only one, Southern Cross Fiber is the only one I know who carries it, and I try and get everything of his on that base because it is my favorite base. It spins nice and thin. It is so amazingly lovely. It's probably my favorite fiber to spin overall. With the silk, that just means that this was even more super soft. I will say, the 50-50 blend was not my favorite to spin. It has created an amazing, amazing yarn. It was not my favorite to spin because it was really, really slippery, and it didn't, I felt like I had to really pay attention to make sure that it held together. And I don't feel like I have to do that when the South African Superfine is on its own. And I think I'm learning that silk blends are not my favorite anymore. I like them. I love the finished yarn that they create, but I just don't enjoy spinning with them as much. I think because they're slippy, and sometimes, although not really much in this, I shouldn't say this because I don't want you to think it's part of this. Sometimes silk in blends doesn't blend well, and it ends up kind of clumpy. And so in general, I'm just finding that I'm not as into silk as I once was. But let's get to the point. This was November Flowers. It was like, it was a November club, probably from 2015, so it was a braid that I had hoarded for a while. It is a beautiful braid, and it came out beautifully. It has whites and creams and various shades of purple and lilac, and a little bit more bluer, like a periwinkle blue. It is absolutely amazing, and although it was called November Flowers, it reminds me of sugar plums, particularly this time of year, so I don't know if that's what I'm going to call it, but it is gorgeous. It needs a bath, and it might fluff up a little bit because it's got that merino in there, but it is so amazingly soft, and I got great yardage on this one. I don't know 100% for sure until I wash it and see what shrinkage I get. But I would say I probably got more than 400 yards in this skein, so this would be absolutely lovely, and this is destined for the shop. I kind of hoarded it to spin, but I don't have something to make with it, so I am going to release it into the shop. So that is November Flowers by Southern Cross Fiber. So that means it's time for a new fiber this week, and this afternoon actually is my spinning holiday party. I need to finish up my recording so I can get out of here. So I need to take some new fiber with me to spin, and I decided that I'm going to take this braid. This is the October Club of Hello Yarn, and it is kind of water and earthy tones. It is browns and greens and a little bit of gold and a bunch of blues, and this is on Falkland fiber, and I just hadn't spun anything blue and brown in a while, so I decided that this one would be my spin for this week. This is going to go up in the shop as well. So keep an eye on that if you are interested in handspun. I think that's it. It's all I can think of for now. It is high knitting season here. The weather, so we had the blizzard last weekend. Monday and Tuesday were in the 20s and icy. It went up to almost 50 yesterday, but was rainy and cold and windy. And then today we're back down in the 30s, and they're predicting wintry mix, which is some combination of rain, ice, rain, snow, and sleet. Doesn't it sound fabulous? So we are in prime cozy time and prime I want to knit all the things time. So I have a million things to knit. I have another sweater I want to do. I have 2 or 3 shawls I want to do. I have a shawl book to review, and I'm going to knit something out of it to review. I have materials for a sweater for Miles to review. I have a few more yarns coming for review. I think I'm going to make thrummed mittens, and I have a project coming where I'm getting a skein of mohair and a skein of something else, and so I'm going to strand them together. And that's not all for December. I confess that's probably like December, January, February, but I have a million projects planned for winter, and I have a ton of things that I want to knit this month, and I'm just focusing on knitting warm, cozy things that make me happy. Like I said, I'm peppering a few reviews in there, but they're all things that either I need to knit, like for instance, I needed a baby gift, so this was the perfect thing to knit right now, or things that I want to knit, like the mohair that's going to be stranded with something else. I'm really excited to work on that. I think I'm going to do kind of a bandana cowl because I love the cozy, warm, yeah, I'm kind of getting into mohair. I'm getting on that train. Yeah. So I have a million things that I'm going to knit. I don't know how my spinning's going to do. We're getting close to the end of the year where I kind of evaluate what I did for the year, how many projects I knit, how many spins I did. I know my spinning is way down this year. I think I'm going to hit about 10 pounds, which I know it's crazy for me to say I'm down, but I've done 13 or 14 in the past. So, and my goal is usually about 13 pounds. So I'm definitely down from there. Although I don't really care. It's kind of a goal, but if I'm not feeling it, I'm not pushing myself to do it. I really want to make December the time that I work on things that I want to knit and love to knit, and honestly spoiling myself a little bit. I mean, I've knit plenty for myself over the year, but I spend a lot of time working on holiday gifts and holiday sweaters and baby blankets and other things. And I want to do some more new patterns in 2019, but I want to take a month to just knit and do all of these things for myself. And so I think I'm going to do that this month. So thank you for bearing with me during this long episode. I don't usually record episodes this long anymore, but I suppose for 3 weeks, 3 short episodes would equal 1 long episode. So thank you for bearing with me through this. I hope you've had a wonderful week and weekend, and you're looking forward to a beautiful, fun December with lots of activities and wonderful knits. And until I see you again, and that will be next weekend, I promise. There shouldn't be any more interruptions for a while. I will say, as I always do, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye!